Good evening, everybody. I am your host, Jack Remington, of the Jack Remington NFL channel. Got a lot of important things to do. Got to get the video up today. There's a Saturday game that we're playing. I had to scratch a couple of other games because 3 games got moved to Monday and Tuesday, respectively. The Cleveland Browns Los Angeles Raiders game got moved to Monday night, and the Washington football team at Philadelphia and the Seattle at the Rams in Los Angeles both got moved to Tuesday due to COVID-19 problems that the NFL decided to move these games to give them a couple days to get back on the field, whatever. This video is not about the merits of the move that the NFL made. This is our handicapping series. So, and I'll explain why I scratched 2 of those 3 games that I was going to play. Let's get to what happened last week first, really quick. This is part of the learning process, is why I do this first. We did go 3-2 last week. 3 wins, 2 losses, but we were 3 plays away from going 5-0, and I must talk about them. So the last 3 weeks, I should have 7 more wins on my tally, but I don't have it. That's okay. We are going over why I didn't make what I was supposed to make and how close I was. So as you probably already know, we had easy wins with the Chargers versus the Giants laying big chalk. Easy win with Titans over the Jaguars. It was 20-0, but it still covered the spread. I knew there was a good chance they were going to shut them out because their offense is terrible. But I did say in the other video that Urban Meyer's defense was in the middle of the pack. They were like the number 13 defense in the NFL. He had the defense playing pretty well and very capable. Only gave up 20 points to the Titans. But I also talked about Urban Meyer. Hey, can you ease up a little bit? But then a couple of days after I made the video, he gets fired. I believe it was on a Tuesday a.m. to Wednesday morning. That way the coaches could come in on a fresh slate. The owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mr. Khan, K-H-A-N Khan, he's a Pakistani-American businessman. He's a billionaire. He can't spend all his money, and good for him. I'm sure he's a good owner. He also pulled the plug on Tom Coughlin as a general manager a couple years ago because the 25% of all the complaints and grievances were from the NFL PLA, the NFL Players League Association, where 25% or more were filed against the Jaguars alone. So he knew there was a problem, and there was the issue between voluntary OTAs, organized team activities, versus involuntary or mandatory. And Tom Coughlin, being the hard ass that he is, he didn't know the difference between voluntary and involuntary. And like 13 players complained and wrote grievances, and they all won their cases, by the way. All the fines were paid back through the Jacksonville organization. That did not make Mr. Khan very happy. And as good as Coughlin was, he said, it's time for us to part ways. Tom Coughlin also depleted the roster when he was with them the first time and couldn't manage the salary cap very well. Tom Coughlin's good in a lot of ways, and he beat Bill Belichick twice in 2 Super Bowls, but that doesn't really mean much when it comes to being a general manager per se, when it comes to the year after year after year running the team. And apparently Bill Belichick is still miles ahead of everybody else. He knows how to manage all that, the salary cap, keeping the grievances down, yada, yada, yada. I just wanted to mention that we all knew that Urban Meyer was a dumpster fire, and it just caught up with them. When you hear other YouTubers and other commentators say things like, well, Urban Meyer, he's good at 2 things, but not 3. Well, the NFL's not the thing he's good at. Believe them, they're right. The list goes on. Bobby Petrino tried the Falcons. Saban tried the Miami Dolphins and didn't do anything. College coach tried the Bears for a year or 2, didn't make it. But the one guy that I want to talk about really quick is a guy that probably most of you never heard of. His name was Frank Kush. He was the coach of the Baltimore Colts in the late 70s. And they were 0-11-1 or something like that when they had a smaller schedule. He got lucky when he tied the Green Bay Packers, this mighty Green Bay Packers team with Bart Starr. I believe it was even at Green Bay, too, and they were like 16.5-point favorites. They were supposed to slap the Colts. They were terrible. But Frank Kush got a tie, which was a moral victory for him. And then when Burt Jones got healthy again, the quarterback, and around the time they were drafting John Elway, They warned John Elway, hey, look, this guy, this Frank Kush guy, he thinks he's a college coach, and he got fined years ago for he grabbed the punter by the helmet. I'll see if I can find that video somewhere deep in the archives. But it just didn't work. I mean, you can't have guys. Urban Meyer, he kicked the one player during a stretching practice and warm-up practice. I mean, you can't. These are young men. You can't do that. I mean, look at me. I'm in the middle of my 60s. Do you think that would work with me? If I'm stretching on the field and somebody comes behind me and kick me like that, I'm off the. whatever's supposed to do that day is done. There's going to be a fight. Okay, that's what happens when you get people that are of a certain age and certain status. You got to treat them like men. You can't treat them like little kids. And there's some kids because their brains are still forming. They're not focused. I'm not saying I'm for Frank Kush and Urban Meyer grabbing a helmet and kicking the players. I'm not for that. I don't think I would ever do that. But I got to say, Urban Meyer, he drastically misunderstood what the NFL job entailed, or we haven't heard his side of the stories. But when I got the report the other night that 12 of the 14 coaches that they have mutinied against them and filed grievances against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then Mr. Khan, the owner, had to start going to team meetings every week after the Jacksonville bar incident, there was a problem. I mean, it was a matter of time before Khan pulled the plug. And if pretend you're the owner, you would do it too. You would pull the plug on them too and reset and get this team going again, because you got a defense and you got Trevor Lawrence. If he gets the right training and the right mentorship. And Alex Smith, he had 7 different offensive coordinators in his first 7 years as 49ers quarterback. So things like that pop in my head when I'm making these videos. I can't think of shit before the video gets turned on. But when I'm making a video and I start talking the NFL, it comes back to me. So the continuity is important, and learning is important, and learning from my mistakes and the bad picks I do make. You will be a much better handicapper, and you'll be able to beat that casino and beat that book. Okay, that's the goal of this channel. You are to beat these people's ass, and we're going to do that. So, back to my last week real quick. I told you about the Chargers. I told you about Titans. We won with the Rams. Arizona, I just felt the Rams were the better team. Arizona was kind of hobbled a little bit. I was taking a slightly healthier team, and they won, getting the points. We lost to the Washington football team, and I want to talk about them really quick because I was riding their streak, and they were doing pretty well. They missed an extra point somewhere in their comeback in the fourth quarter. And all I can remember now is that when they scored, they got a pick 6 against the Cowboys, and they were coming back, and they're home underdog, and we were getting 4 points. And next thing you know, they were forced to go for 2, and the guy drops the ball. They make that 2-point conversion. They're down by 5. And then we're going to kick a field goal before. I'm here to tell you that they make that first extra point. The game changes. We get a push instead of a loss. It would have been 27-23, and I would have been happy with that. The one game that was just a shocker, the Bills plus 3.5. I mean, they were getting destroyed by the Bucs in the first half, and I get it. I'm thinking, well, maybe we made a bad pick. But guess what? Buffalo comes back in the second half, and Josh Allen may have played the best game he's ever played. And he took it on his back. He was running the ball. He was doing whatever he wants to win that game. So he showed me some fire, and I kind of like Josh Allen. I mean, he showed me something in that game. And we're getting 3.5 points as an underdog. And I'm primarily underdog better. Oh, before I go any further, I want you to know that the favorites slapped the underdogs 11 wins to 3 last week. I can only remember one other time in my 30-some years in doing handicapping in the NFL where there was such a lopsided favorite slap of the dogs. And then start off this week, the Kansas City Chiefs slapped the Chargers in overtime. I'm using an added game, and I'll put it on the screen later. Had an added game that we were going to take a shot at the Chargers, and they had like 17 plays within the 5-yard line, only scored one time. I knew I was in trouble. The Chiefs defense stepped it up, a little bit of luck. I don't like the Chiefs because of Andy Reid. I love Mahomes. I love the tight end. Chris Jones, I think, is the best defensive end in football. They have a lot of good plug-in players that are just outstanding. With this COVID thing, Chris Jones got scratched. I thought, I'm going to jump on this Chargers thing here. And I gave my reasons on pregame.com. And if I can remember, I'll put the link up later and you can read it for yourself. I won't waste your time here. But we were just a couple plays away from going 5-0 last week. And I should give myself 5 bonus points just because I told everybody to pass on that Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens shitfest game. I had 2 friends, 2 football buddies here in Santa Barbara and Ventura County. And the Santa Barbara guy loves the Cleveland Browns. He thinks Baker Mayfield should make more commercials. He likes his girlfriend, and the other guy, he's an older guy. He likes the Ravens. And I'm from Baltimore, and he's from Eastern Shore in Maryland. So, he's got a soft spot for the Ravens, and Cleveland gets this big lead, so the Cleveland guys all happy. Hey, you should have took us. I said, no, I'm telling you, I'm not sad I passed that game. When you pass a game, you just pass it and you forget about it. But they were here, they were watching the game, and one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, Cleveland's got this gigantic 24 to either 3 or 24-6 big lead, where it was flipping the games, watching other games. Next thing you know, that Lamar Jackson, he's 4 for 4, but he gets hurt in the middle of the first quarter. And then they bring in Hundley, who's actually did a good job. He impressed me. Then the next thing you know, Cleveland, they don't score anymore. They just stopped. And then next thing, now the Cleveland guy's getting nervous, and he's shutting up. The Santa Barbara guy's getting nervous, and then he gets real quiet. And then hey, what happened to your Brownies? Oh, here comes the rain. And they won by half a point. Now, how would you like to have been on either side of that bet? And it was 24-6 the first quarter. And you're thinking, well, I blew this one. And then Lamar Jackson got hurt. You wouldn't even look at the game. I'm telling you, there was a reason why I passed in that Cleveland-Baltimore shitfest game. And I saved myself a lot of aggravation. I should give myself 5 points for that. Because I knew it was going to be a shitfest. And see, that game, you're flipping a coin. Who wants to go 50-50? Go do something. If you want to go flip a coin, you're wasting your time. We're not here to flip the coin. We're here to get good things in our favor. And I told you, this Baltimore-Cleveland game was not to be played. You are flipping a coin with some of these games because no one can get a read on these teams. The line makers, the odds makers can't a good line. Whenever you hear, like for college football, you hear about the bad lines. Well, that's what they mean. These Division III schools and no one follows, they'll put a bad line. If you're a student enough and you follow those Division III schools, Mississippi Valley State, for example, and you know that they have a really heated rivalry with West Tennessee State. West Tennessee State's favorite was 17, and they played last year and went to overtime when they won by 1 point, and they got the same players back. They're all seniors. I'm taking the dog, and they won 35-7. You have to really pick your spots. You don't want a 50-50 coin football. I'll take this team. The monkey throwing the darts at the stock market chart and outpick the pros. No, we don't want that. We want to put the odds in our favor, or else we're not going to do this. 3-2 last week. Let's go over this week's games, and then we'll talk about the rest of the thing. And as things pop up, I'll share what I have. So the first one we're taking New England Patriots plus 2.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. Everybody wants to be the Indianapolis Colts backer. I mean, I can't say what I really want to say this is a family channel. So I don't understand all this Colts love. There were 7 teams that started 0-3 this year, and the Colts were the only playoff team from last year that were in that group. How many teams have ever won the Super Bowl starting 0 wins and 3 losses? How many teams? That's a big, fat 0. No team has ever started 0-3 and won a Super Bowl. How many teams have started 0-3 and made it to the Super Bowl? A big, fat 0. How many teams have ever started 0-3 and made it to the divisional round of the playoffs in the Super Bowl era? A big, fat 0. Now, there has been 5 0-3 teams that did make the playoffs. 4 as a wild card winner, 1 as a division winner. But none, as far as I know, none of them ever advanced. And I'm going to double check on that. But my point is, they're 0-3 for a reason. They've got some kind of weakness somewhere that's going to get exploited later in the season when the teams regroup. 1986, the Oakland Raiders started 0-3, and they were favored to win the Super Bowl that year. But they were all 3 close games. But they had a weakness somewhere. Next thing they go on a tear, they peel off 5 or 6 straight wins. But they had a rematch with the Broncos. The Broncos beat them in overtime. It was a close, hard-fought game. Sets them at 8-4, and people were still thinking, the Raiders are still going to do it. But they lost their last 4 games, finished 8-8. And one of the games was to a 0-13 Indianapolis Colts hadn't won a game. I was a big Oakland Raiders fan back then. I just remember that season was so strange. Even the Washington Post, the local newspaper where I was living at, did a big expose and explained what I'm explaining to you about the Oakland Raiders. What happened to this team? The punts are 10 yards less. They're dropping more balls. They just fumble with no one around them. Not even getting tackled. They're fumbling the balls for no reason. I mean, it's just baseball. The Baltimore Orioles won the World Series in '66. They swept the heavily favored Los Angeles Dodgers and Sandy Koufax. And Jim Palmer beat Koufax his last game 6-0, almost to a no-hitter. Dodgers scored 2 runs in the first game, and they were winning 2-1 for the first 8 innings until they hit a couple home runs in the 9th, win 5-2. Dodgers never scored another run. They got shut out the next 3 games, and the Orioles swept them. 1967, what happens? Pop-up, strikeout, ground out. Pop-up, strikeout, ground out. They didn't even finish 500. I mean, it happens. Teams just go into a funk, and sometimes it doesn't go away. And it happens in football too. And you got to remember, football, you got to be really careful. You only got, well, now we got 17 games to fool with. Before, until this year, it was a 16-game schedule for, I think, 18 years. We had a 16-game schedule. Before that, it was a 14-game schedule. Before that, it was a 12 and 11. I remember an 11-game schedule. We're taking the Patriots because I think Bill Belichick's going to take away their running game. Just Jonathan Taylor. Look at who the Colts have beaten. They beat Houston. They beat this dude. They beat whoever. Have they beat anybody really good? Yeah, they beat Buffalo a few weeks ago, but Buffalo's kind of tailspinning. We'll get to Buffalo later. I just think New England. Have you ever seen New England have a bad game? You ever see the Patriots just get smoked by somebody? Yeah, well, Matt Castle was with them, and I think Steelers got him 45-13 in that ice bowl up there. But that was the only game that just pop into my head when I'm turning the camera on. I just see Bill Belichick not being prepared in some way. I mean, I just think the Patriots are going to get them. We're taking the Patriots, and I'm just sticking with them. And I just think they're, from top to bottom, I think they're a better team, including quarterback. I think the Patriots got the better quarterback. I love Carson Wentz too, but you know what? I just think Mac Jones has got some upside, and Carson Wentz is going to be in the dustbin of history. Pick number 2, we're taking a strange one here. We're taking the Carolina Panthers plus 10.5, and they're at the Buffalo Bills, the reeling Buffalo Bills. Well, Josh Allen might not play. Now, he gave a quote 2 days ago, I'm going to play, don't worry, this boot's going to be off my foot. Well, if you look at the thing there, he hasn't practiced it. I don't think Josh Allen is at that elite level like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, where they can get away with a week without practice. They just got to get their body warm the day of the game. They can do extra stretching for maybe 5-10 minutes. They both have their own personal trainers. And Josh Allen's not to that point yet. And neither is Lamar Jackson for the Ravens. We'll get to them in a bit. I just think that there's a good chance that if Josh Allen doesn't play, I like the Panthers in the spot. I mean, I'm going to put a sprinkle on a small sprinkle on the Panthers. I mean, this will be a good one to get if you put the small sprinkle on the Panthers. Going to upset them here. Cam Newton hasn't won a game as a Panther since he returned. I mean, he's going to. Cam Newton does have some fire, and he wants to win one, and this will be a good one for him to win. That would make his season if he could beat the Buffalo Bills. And I know I shouldn't handicap like this, but you know what? I've seen strange things like this happen. So we're at least getting the 10.5 points. I just think it's a big number, whether Josh Allen plays or not. And the Panthers, they run the ball. Okay, I like these running ball teams. And Buffalo is not too good at stopping the run. We've seen that movie, 2 weeks in a row now. Pick number 3. This is probably the worst pick I've made all year, but I'm gonna pick it. And we're actually losing some line value here. We're taking the Baltimore Ravens plus 5.5 and hosting the Green Bay Packers. Well, both Rodgers and Lamar Jackson has not practiced. Aaron Rodgers, it gives the Green Bay an edge if he's not practicing. And I think he is so good. He is such an elite quarterback level. There isn't an armchair guy like us around that can really evaluate that talent. Okay, I have enough confidence in past performances and knowing Aaron Rodgers since he's been in the league. He doesn't need to practice. I'll just come out and say it. You can mock me in the comments. This guy is deadly. He's got a bad toe. Well, I had a bad toe. I mean, I almost missed work. Your toe is the foundation of your stability for your standing up and walking as a Homo sapien, and then you expect Aaron Rodgers to go around. I mean, that pain that's going to be shooting through his legs when he's scrambling out to get away from the pass rush, getting away from the linebackers, or the post safety blitz coming in on him, and he's a right-handed quarterback, but he can still make every throw, whether he's going to the left or the right. He's gonna miss the passes if the toe is as severe as I think it is. So there's a good chance he might not even play. Their backup guy, Mr. Love, he's okay, and he's a project for the future, and it's understood. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, I really like the Ravens' chance to keep this game close. The Ravens need this game more than the Green Bay does. I mean, Ravens are really hurting. They can miss on everything if the cards fall wrong. Now, I think Harbaugh's a good coach. LaFleur, he's good. He's a good coach. I like the guy. I think he's a good football person. He could coach on my team. If I ever owned a team, and he was available, I would take him. But I think Harbaugh's going to out-coach him. And you know my motto. I mean, the coaching is most important in the NFL than any other team sport because there's so many parts to move. And there's so much more you got to learn. And I think the coach is going to show up here. I think he's going to outcoach that young guy. The Packers are no question from top to bottom talented, but they're pretty much equal with the quarterback. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's throwing some interceptions, but his running ability, it gives him an extra dimension. And Lamar Jackson is better than what Michael Vick was when he was with Atlanta Falcons early in his career. We're going to take the Ravens to 5.5. We're losing line value. I just saw this morning, and my friend told me it's up to 7.5. So the money's heavily coming on the Packers. So the metrics for a contrarian better is heavily in our favor with the Ravens. Pick number 4, Tennessee Titans -1.5 at the Steelers. Even though the line is changing and the Steelers are 2-point favorites, I haven't had a chance to look at what's going on here. What happened here? There must have been a COVID list person or something happened. All of a sudden, this line is drastically moved. But I'm still taking the Tennessee Titans, even though, because the set line is fixed. It's a stale set line for the soup contest, and this is how it would work if we were really doing this. So you got to take what's on that board. And so it used to come out Wednesday mornings. Now it comes out Thursday mornings. So you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday to figure out what's going on. One year I had a 7-point differential with the 49ers when they were coming back up. I took them. They were a big dog, and they were 14-point dogs, and they only wound up, in real life, they were 7-point dogs. And I can't remember who they were playing. But I just know that the other team's quarterback was out, and I thought, wow, I'm gonna take the 49ers, and they won the game outright and put sprinkle on the money line. So, but we're losing line value with the Titans here, but we're not losing that much per se. It was only laying a buck and a half anyway, a point and a half anyway against Steelers. I just think the Titans, because Kansas City won they beat the Chargers. Kansas City could very well get that number 1 seed and get that much needed, coveted bye, that rest week. I think Tennessee had their eyes on that too, but they've lost a couple of games. And losing to the Jets didn't help any a few weeks ago. They beat the Jets. They only got one less loss. They had a lock on the number 1 seed. But the Titans they want that first seed if they can get it. They have to win out, and Kansas City and the Patriots got to lose one. So the Steelers, I think Steelers are done. I know Ben Roethlisberger. I'm going to hang it up. He's on the injury list. You better take a look. He's questionable. He might not even play. So if he doesn't play, I think Tennessee's going to destroy them. Pick number 5. This is a really, really bizarre pick. We're taking it because it's a stale line. We're taking a home team, a home small favorite, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're hosting the Texans. It's up to 5.5 right now, and I think the line's going to continue to climb. Now, they fired Urban Meyer. The whole team was relieved. Now they're auditioning for this Mr. Khan guy. And whoever I forgot the general manager's name. I saw it last night, talking about Tom Coughlin. Now everybody on the team, from Mr. Bevel, the interim coach, down all the way down to the street sweeper, they're auditioning for Mr. Khan. The whole team was elated that Urban Meyer got let go. Still doesn't mean that is wrong. He may have made some wrong moves. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Urban Meyer. I mean, he got paid for half a season's worth of. Well, he actually been on contract for 11 months. At the end of January, his contract is over. And I think Khan will just pay him just to get rid of him. And they're billionaires. They don't get there by being wish-washy and indecisive and not confident. They're going to make a move. And so Mr. Khan made his moves. Now these players are thinking, oh, shit. They're auditioning. And the Texans beat them. Jacksonville was favored in week 1. I want you to get in your memory banks here. They were a favorite, I don't know, 4 and 5 point, whatever they were favored by. And the Texans beat them outright. But now Jacksonville has a chance to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They're not worried about the number 1 pick. I don't think Mr. Khan would take kindly to people thinking, well, let's just lose the rest of our games so we get the number 1 pick. Mr. Khan doesn't think like that. He wants to win games. And if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, that's a positive force. That's a positive feather in your cap. They don't give a shit about the number 1 pick. He wants the team to win. Houston might be playing for the pick. Good for them. And that's all the more reason why I think this is a good bet. I think this is a great bet here. So now let's go over the rest of the card. Raiders -1.5 at the Browns. This is the game that got moved to Monday night. I think the Browns had 23 people that tested COVID-19 positive. I mean, I couldn't believe I read that. And I'm not even sure if the Raiders had any or not. But we were actually leaning on the Raiders. Because Baker Mayfield is one of the key players that they can't play. Well, if they push the game back over days, well, now he can play. And then what kind of shit is that? I mean, they're playing games with these COVID-19 stuff. So my recommendation is don't play any of these COVID games like that. So I scratched that game and replace it with the Carolina game. Next, okay, Eagles -7 versus Washington. We're going to jump on the Eagles. We're going to take the Eagles because Washington is just plain hobbled. They've been depleted and they're injured, walking dead football team. They can't help it. It happens to a lot of teams. It happens every year to somebody. And the Eagles have a chance to make the playoffs, and they got that Gardner Minshew III. If he plays, man, he's gonna tear Washington up. He's that short range passer. He knows how to get around his linebackers. I mean, I just think that this was a good spot, but because of this protocol thing with the Washington football team players getting COVID-19, and there's a rash of them, I'm not going to scratch the game. Dolphins -10 versus the Jets. We're considering taking the Dolphins minus at 10, but you know what? We're losing line value. It's down to 8.5, and it's a division rivalry. They played once, and the Jets only lost by 7, and I know that was at New York. But the Jets had two interceptions in the fourth quarter. And the Jets had a chance to win that game. So we decided, I know Dolphins are on a momentum streak, but you know what? The Jets, they hate the Miami so much they might rise up and play well. Next game, Cowboys -11 versus the Giants. We thought about so the Dolphins -10, pass that game. Pass the Eagles game. Pass the Raiders game. Don't play any of these games I'm talking about. I'll tell you which ones to play. Cowboys -11 versus Giants. My lean would be on the Cowboys. They know they got to keep winning. They want to get that first seed too, but Green Bay keeps winning. And the Green Bay, I think they got a real good chance of getting that thing locked up. Cardinals -13 versus the Lions. My lean will be on the Cardinals. Cardinals got to keep pace too, and I just think the Lions could very well be playing for that number 1 pick. I know Campbell's a good guy. I know he's trying to win, but he knows he's undermanned. He knows now if Detroit's got that tie in there too, so if Detroit wins another game, that actually puts them ahead of the other teams. That puts them ahead of Jacksonville and Houston Texans, by percentage points. So I'm not so sure Lions are gonna do much here. So my lean would be on the Cardinals. I would lean on the Lions trying to lose out. Next game, 49ers -9 at the Falcons. That's a big number for the 49ers, but and I'll tell you why. My lean would be on the Falcons because they do well on the road. They can't win at home. I mean, look at their road record. Well, they've won all their games on the road, and if they can win a couple more games, they make the wild card. And they will have done it on the road. I can remember one team that did this, the New Orleans Saints, and the second time they ever made the playoffs ever. They won 7 games on the road and made the wild card. They only won 1 or 2 at home. There's teams like that they just can't win at home. Next game, Broncos -2.5 versus the Bengals. I almost took the Broncos -2.5, but you know what? Bengals lost 2 in a row. Broncos, they got Teddy Bridgewater. No fire. My lean would be on the Broncos. If you really must play this game, take the Broncos. Next game, Rams -4.5 versus Seahawks. Well, they moved the game. We were going to take the Rams. But you know what? The COVID-19 thing, scratch the game. Don't play this game. Scratch this game. Don't feed into this stuff that they're doing in the NFL and everything else. Just focus on what we do and just try to keep that world out. That works for me. Buccaneers -11 versus the Saints. Well, now the Saints got some problems. And Sean Payton, who got COVID 2020. Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, he got COVID in 2020, gets vaccinated, and he's sick again. I'll let it rest at that. I'll let the facts speak for themselves. The Saints got the Buccaneers number in the regular season, but it's just in the playoff time when it's crunch time. Tom Brady got him in the playoff game, but it was still a pretty competitive game. It was a close game in the fourth quarter until they pulled away. My lean was on the Saints until this crap happened with the COVID-19. So, but like I said, when you start seeing this stuff with the COVID stuff, you pass this game. Don't play this game. So pass the Buccaneers game. Monday night game, Vikings -4 at the Bears. Bears are home. Division rivalry. Will the Bears rise up? This also is a pass. So I'm not giving you a lot of games to play this week. But sometimes there's some weeks. I told you, I knew the guy. He only did half times. He would never. You could give him Kansas City Chiefs plus 100 points against the chart. He wouldn't take it. He waited to halftime to make his bets, and he beat the game. He beat the NFL. Why I'm telling you that? And why am I telling you that? You got to be able to see which team has got the history of making adjustments at halftime, and that team is going to at least cover for you in some way. You gotta have the experience to watch these games and evaluate the talent, evaluate. The refs got the laundry out every other play. That's not usually not a good game to bet in the first place, but we don't know that. We're on the outside looking in. We can only go by past performances and what we think is going to happen for the next performance. And our handicappers, we got to be able to make the snap decisions based on what we can recall really quickly, and that's part of the handicapping. You got to know your stuff. If you don't know anything about this business, then I recommend finding a different hobby or a different profession, because you can't be making a mistake. For every mistake you make in this, you got to win twice as hard to stay pace. So when you hear a former casino employee say work is where it's at, and he's, yeah, but how can you say it? You made 10,000. That you can't use that one shot as you can do this as a living. When you work and you make $100 wherever you make $200 a day with $300, whatever you're making, you make it every day. You never lose. Okay, that's very powerful. It's compounding interest. They asked Albert Einstein. I just popped in my head. Someone asked Albert Einstein, "What is the greatest thing besides your E equals MC squared?" He goes, compounding interest. just like that, compounding interest. So, and people say Albert Einstein was the smartest man in the world. And George Carlin did a little comedy skit. He says, "How do you know that Albert Einstein's the smartest man in the world?" It would take somebody who was smarter than him to be able to say that he was the smartest man in the world, wouldn't it? It's a true paradox. And George Carlin was a brilliant comedian, stand-up comedian. He's a legend. He's my favorite stand-up comedian of all time, along with many others. He had the insight and foresight, and he was a brilliant writer. He wrote his own stuff, but he was really, really brilliant with the concepts and these oxymorons and these contradictions in human behavior. Let's turn the season around. I think I'm out of that funk. I'm just a hair away from breaking away here. And I only gave you 7 games to play, 5 for the soup, and 2 other ones I've got a couple leans on. But we can do this. We can finish strong here. We can do this. Just remember, entertainment only. Stay within your means. Know what the hell you're doing. You have to relearn all the time. I relearn every week. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. You're getting me for free. I don't mind. I want to see all my fellow handicappers. I want to see them beat the books and beat their local bookie, beat the casino. And I want to see us rise up and stick it to them. I just want to see the look on their faces when it happens. Say hi to Ken Norton and Muhammad Ali, the Beatles, hardest working band in the history of the music. And you know how much I feel about my country. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next video.